I used to think I owned my pets. I fed them. I trained them. I made the rules. Then one night I was sitting alone, crying over something I couldn't even explain, and my cat jumped onto my lap, pressed her head against my chest, and just stayed there. She didn't move for an hour. Nobody taught her that. Nobody trained her to do that. And in that moment I realized I was never the one in charge. I never was. This is the story of what animals have been doing for us this entire time, without us ever noticing. It started with something small. I was in the kitchen making coffee one morning, moving through my usual routine, when I noticed my dog sitting perfectly still in the doorway. Not begging, not excited, just watching, studying. I waved my hand. He tilted his head. I picked up my keys. He stood up immediately before I said a single word. He knew, not because I trained him to recognize keys, but because he had been watching me for years, building a map of my behavior, learning my patterns better than I knew them myself. Scientists call this observational learning. It requires memory, pattern recognition, and the ability to predict future events based on past experience. For decades, researchers said only humans and a handful of primates could do this. Then they actually started watching our pets. My cat learned to open the treat cabinet by watching me do it 3 times. 3 times. My dog learned that when I put on my left shoe first, I was going for a walk, but when I put on my right shoe first, I was leaving without him. I never noticed I had a pattern. He had it memorized. They are not reacting to our world. They're reading it. Every single day. And most of us never look up long enough to see it happening. My neighbor's cat is tiny. Maybe 4 pounds. The kind of cat that looks like a strong breeze could end her story permanently. One afternoon her dog, a massive, loud, unpredictable rescue, cornered a child in the backyard. Not aggressively, just excitedly. But the child was terrified, frozen, crying. That 4-pound cat walked across the entire yard, placed herself directly between the dog and the child, and stared that dog down without blinking. The dog backed up. Nobody trained her to do that. Nobody asked her. She assessed a situation, identified someone who needed protection, and acted. Alone. Without hesitation. Courage isn't about size. It never was. The smallest animals I have ever known have shown more deliberate, conscious bravery than most humans manage in a lifetime. There's a cat I know who jumps barriers that are physically impossible for his size, not because he doesn't understand the risk, but because he has decided the reward is worth it every single time. Full commitment. Zero hesitation. That's not instinct. That's a choice. And somewhere in that choice is something that looks a lot like character. I want to tell you about the most bizarre conversation I ever had. I came home one evening after the worst day of my professional life. I walked through the door, sat down on the floor, not the couch, the floor, and I just started talking to my dog. I told him about the meeting that went wrong, the email I shouldn't have sent, the moment I felt completely invisible in a room full of people. He sat directly in front of me the entire time. When my voice got frustrated, his ears went back. When I laughed at something stupid I had done, his tail moved. When I went quiet, he put his paw on my knee. He understood none of the words. He understood all of it. Animals have developed something researchers now call emotional linguistics, the ability to read tone, rhythm, facial microexpressions, and body language simultaneously and respond appropriately. They don't process the words. They process the person. Your pet knows when you're lying about being okay. They have always known. They just never called you out on it because they understood that sometimes people just need someone to sit with them on the floor without asking questions. Let me be honest about something. I have never actually been in charge. My cat has a schedule. Not my schedule, her schedule. At 6 a.m., she sits on my chest. Not beside me. On me. Breakfast happens at 6 a.m. because she decided it does, and every morning I wake up and make it happen like I chose this. My dog has established that the left side of the couch belongs to him. I don't know when this was decided. There was no meeting. No negotiation. One day it was just true, and I have been sitting on the right side ever since. The funniest part? They're not controlling us through fear or force. They're doing it through love. They have figured out that humans respond to affection, to cuteness, to a well-timed head tilt, and they deploy these tools with surgical precision. Your pet is not manipulating you maliciously. They just understood the assignment faster than you did. The assignment was, make the human feel needed. Make them feel chosen. Make them feel like the most important person in the room. And in return, life is warm and safe and full of food. Honestly, brilliant strategy. I respect it completely. My grandmother had a cat named Thomas for 19 years. When she got sick, really sick, Thomas stopped sleeping in his usual spot by the window. He moved permanently to her bed. He was there when the doctors visited. He was there through the difficult nights. He was there every single morning when she opened her eyes. The doctor told her once, half joking, that Thomas was probably adding time to her life. He wasn't joking. A 20-year study tracking over 12,000 pet owners found that people with pets had lower cortisol levels, lower blood pressure, faster recovery from illness, and significantly higher scores on emotional resilience tests. But the finding that stopped researchers was this. The pets didn't need to do anything special. They didn't need to perform tricks or provide entertainment. Simply being present was enough. Their breathing, their warmth, the specific weight of them sleeping beside you. Our nervous systems recognize them as safe, as home. We evolved alongside these animals for thousands of years, and somewhere in that time our biology decided, these creatures belong with us. Thomas passed away 3 months after my grandmother. The vet said it was natural causes. Our family has always believed he simply decided his job was finished. Here is the thing nobody tells you. You didn't choose your pet. Think about it. You walked into a shelter or a pet store or someone's home, and out of every animal there, one of them looked at you differently than the rest. Something happened in that moment that you couldn't explain. You just knew. Animal behaviorists have studied this for years. Their conclusion is uncomfortable for people who like to feel in control. The animal chose you. They assessed every person who walked through. They read body language, emotional energy, stress levels, and temperament, and they made a decision. You were selected. Every morning they wake up and choose you again. Not because they have to, not because there's no alternative, because you are their person. And they decided that before you decided anything at all. Go home tonight and look at your pet. Really look. And understand that the most loyal relationship of your life began the moment an animal looked at you and thought, that one. That's my human.